Ladies and centers, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show presented by Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. You guys can get at us every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I know I've taken a little bit of a hiatus, but guess what? Life, illness, just life, a busy football schedule. Thank the Lord I'm on my last 2 weeks. It's going to be great because then at that point, it's a month and a half away from baby Creed arriving. So a lot of busy stuff. Also a lot of live stuff going on, considering we painted the room. Then my lovely fiance messed up the paint. I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm just saying what it is, man. It looks like there's little dark streaks in the corners and around the trim. It's like the kid's whole life's going to be outlined. I don't know what to tell you. But the crib came in. It's a 4-in-1. We're set up there. All the Batman stuff came in. So that room's going to be set up, sick, ready to go. This kid's going to be spoiled. It's the way it is, and it's deserved. You guys know how it is, but this is the Sin City Sports Show presented by Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you guys want to tune into the show, you guys can come to StreamYard here. Go to iesportsradio.com. You can go to YouTube. We're on every single platform known to man. Apple Pods, Good Pods, Google Pods. We're on all of the main podcasts. On top of that, Audible, Deezer, CastBox. I mean, we're everywhere, guys. Everywhere. If you want to check out our Twitters, at @SinCity_ISR, @Kayle_Henderson, we talk all things Vegas sports. It has been a busy couple weeks, folks, and none busier than the stuff that happened today, right? I mean, lots to talk about. We got to talk about the Lady Aces. They had a good run, won the first round of the playoffs. You guys know what happened in the second round against the Liberty. Liberty's just a really good young team. I think the Lady Aces were just they were at that point after winning 2 straight. You just had to ask yourself, did they have enough fuel? It didn't seem like it. We'll talk about that a little bit. Bishop Gorman, we're going to touch base on them. The Golden Knights are off to a hot start. Golden Knights doing Golden Knights things. Jack Eichel carrying the team as always, or what they would expect after trading for him a couple of years ago and losing March Assault and the rest of those scores from that team a couple of years ago that won the Stanley Cup. We're going to touch base on the Bishop Gorman. Maybe talk about UNLV real quick because UNLV is winning. They're like one of the only teams in Vegas I can trust right now, if we're being honest. And then we got to finish with the Raiders. And I'm going to be real with you guys, man. There won't be a marker board today because we're going all in on the dysfunction of this Raiders franchise and where it's at right now. And I don't necessarily put blame on Antonio Pierce. I'm not one of those people that's like, let's call for this man's job after 6 games. But we are at the point where we have to start thinking, is he too inexperienced for this particular opportunity? We'll talk about here when we get back on the Sin City Sports Show presented by Sports Radio. Here, a word from our sponsors, Planet Jerky and Seal the Deal Wax Seals. See you soon.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Ladies and centers, welcome back. Special thank you to the sponsors. Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Special still going on, folks. If you guys order a bag of jerky, post it on Instagram, tag IE Sports Radio, you will be eligible for a second bag of jerky for free of the assorted flavors. So take advantage of that. Again, take a picture with you and that beef jerky in your hand. Tag Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky on IG, IE Sports Radio. Tag IE Sports Radio. You'll get a free bag of jerky. Seal the Deal Wax Seal. Shout out to her by Cecilia B. Hustler, entrepreneur. I actually have my fiance looking at those wax seals as we speak. Hopefully we can get one ordered. We got a baby shower around the corner as well as a wedding next May. So we got to get that taken care of and might as well help, support local, right? Well, not really local because they live in California, weirdos. But listen, it is what it is, right? We got to support those entrepreneurs out there, small businesses. On top of that, IE Sports Radio, folks. Shout out to IE Sports Radio. 10 years. 10 years IE Sports Radio has been killing it. Yeah, I see her back there. All right, Cecilia, what's up? I see you back there. My fiance is looking at one of your wax seals or seeing if we can get one made up. So shout out to you on that one. Shout out to you. And IE Sports Radio, guys, if you guys missed the show, don't even worry about that. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Castbox. We're on every major, and I have to say, Geosfan, I know that's just messed up, and it's some French podcast. I have no idea why it's even in here. I'll let Larry be the judge of that because he's the man, the myth, the legend when it comes to those business decisions. But, yeah, you guys know how it is. Shout out to Marcus Los Great for tuning into the show. Thank you so much, Marcus. Marcus is our host of Gloves Off. He's our combat sports expert here on IE Sports Radio. He airs Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific. If you guys want to check him out, go to @GlovesOffBoxing on X. His personal's @ML or M Los Great. Give Marcus a shout out. He's a badass. Larry says, she said, thank you. I hate the Raiders. Oh, well, yeah, she's allowed to feel that way. So is the rest of Raider Nation and anybody else that just loves seeing us in our misery. And that's been the last 20 years. So they've had a good go of it. I mean, the biggest, if we're being honest, we're like the laughing stock of the league right now. It's hard to say otherwise. It's really hard to say otherwise. It just feels like it's one compiled bad decision on top of another. I just don't know how else to categorize it. And it's rough, man. It's rough. It's rough being a Raiders fan. It's rough looking at the schedule, and we'll touch base on that. But this schedule, the remaining schedule, guys, based on what I've seen, and you just traded away one of two of your best players, and it wouldn't surprise me if the best player on this team is traded before the trade deadline. You don't want to hear it, but I'm being real with you folks. If the Raiders are really going all in on trying to get a franchise quarterback next year, they're probably going to need the assets to do that unless they land in the top 5, and that's no guarantee, because it wouldn't surprise me if they win 6 or 7 games and knock themselves out of the top 5. But regardless, there's a good chance we end up seeing our favorite player, our best player, getting traded to a major contender for a couple first rounders. And that would be a way to catalyst and rebuild the entire team again, except you don't have John Gruden and Mike Mayock making the picks, so you'd hope that it ends up better than the last time we had multiple first rounders. Regardless, a lot to talk about later in the show. We're going to touch base on the Las Vegas Lady Aces here. The Lady Aces did finish 27-13 in this year's regular season. They were second in the Western Conference. If you guys remember, they were fourth or third. They were kind of flirting around with fourth and third about the entire season. Had some injuries, came back healthy, started going on a run, and you just saw a different side of the Lady Aces. But the reality is, like, they won, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight. They won 10 out of their last 11 games to get themselves in that position. And they went 2-0 in their first, won the first series of the playoffs, 2-0 against Seattle Storm. And it wasn't even close in those games, in my opinion. On top of, then the very next round, they play the Liberty, right? New York Liberty. Lose 3-1 there. And it's one of those things where, great season, give them props. They've spent 3 years going deep into the playoffs, 3 straight years. I mean, they were back-to-back champions before this year. So got to give them credit where credit's due. And we're at the point where everybody is basically, all the main players, the big 3 are at that 30 mark. And as we know, as professional athletes, unless you're a golfer or something, your performance starts to decline at 30 or later. It's just, that's why commentators say the wrong side of 30 when they're talking about players. It's just reality, man. It's attrition. It's just part of playing sports. It's part of professional sports. Sometimes you just see some people go you don't want to see. So we're at the point now where the Lady Aces, they still have the big 3. If they can keep those big 3 healthy and fill a really, really talented young team around them, they're probably going to be contenders for the next couple of years. But every team has a cycle, man. Unless think about it. Even though it was a very extended cycle, the New England Patriots had a cycle for 20 years. 6 titles in that time span. It wasn't perfect, but they kept it going. And that was probably one of the most elongated, like unreal type franchise dynasties that we're ever going to see in a 20-year period. Chiefs could get close to that at this point if Patrick Mahomes stay healthy, and it makes you sick saying that, but that's the reality. Like, I'm being real with you folks. Like, I hate the Chiefs, but Patrick Mahomes is a real deal, and every time he's in the game, the Chiefs are in a better position to win. Like, they're missing receivers. They're missing a running back, right? All they have is an aging Travis Kelce right now, who is more worried about what Taylor's going to do in the election than what he's doing on the field right now. And yet they're still winning ball games because Patrick Mahomes is at quarterback. I guess that's the reality. That's where we're at. If you want to win in this league, you need a franchise quarterback, right? The Lady Aces have a franchise player. Aja Wilson was the MVP this year, the runaway MVP. Averaged 27 points a game, which is incredible in any basketball facet. That 27 points a game is nuts. She ran away with it. Kelsey Plum is fully healthy. Jackie Young is healthy. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep those 3 together. I think it's gonna be hard for them to do that. If you have to choose, you want to keep Kelsey Plum, you want to keep Aja Wilson. Those are your 2 mainstays on the team, right? If you can, you want to find a way to keep Jackie Young, who's 27. She's got a lot of time left in her. Realistically, she's 27. Chelsea Gray is the one outlier like that just couldn't stay healthy, who is a really big contributor to the team the last few years. She's 32 now, 5'11", 170 pounds. She played in Duke, so she's used to playing big games. But realistically, she's 32, guys, and she couldn't stay healthy this season. That says something. So I don't foresee Chelsea Gray being on the team after this offseason. I think they'll look at that cap space and say, hey, take a deal for us, or we'll probably have to move on and look for somebody younger. Or it'd be nice if they could find another star or mid-level star that could go along with Aja Wilson and Kelsey Plum and Jackie Young, because those three are going to be your future. I mean, Aja Wilson and Jackie Young are 28 and 27. Kelsey Plum's 30. Kelsey Plum doesn't seem to be slowing down. She's still killing it. She's probably in the best shape of her life, honestly. She was on that ESPN, what was it, ESPN The Body magazine last year, where she just shredded. Like, she knows how to stay fit. She knows how to take care of her body. I think they shouldn't have an issue keeping the longevity going with those three. But regardless, Kelsey Plum is still at 30. So anything after that, as they say in sports, is the wrong side of 30. And that's where attrition starts to happen. But doesn't mean she can't be a better facilitator of the basketball. You have two really young, very, very good scorers. Get them the ball as much as possible. Get those assists. And when they're covered, take your shots, because you're a very good scorer, Kelsey Plum is. So a lot of positivity, you could say, for the Las Vegas Lady Aces. 2 straight WNBA titles, and then they lose in the semifinals. They lose in the semifinals in their third year, going for their third straight. I mean, great run, and you got to give it to them. And it might not be over, man. Some of the greatest dynasties won 2 in a row, lost their third, and won their fourth. Right? You win 3 out of 4 years. That's considered it. Actually, what is the definition of a dynasty? Let's ask that, chat. Like, we have 58 people watching right now. What is the definition of a dynasty? How many championships do you have to win in how many years to be a dynasty? I mean, the New England Patriots did what? 3 out of 4 twice? Dynasty? Yeah, the Patriots. 20 years of success and 6 Super Bowls. That's considered a dynasty? Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're going with that, Larry. But just in general, like, I think I've heard this conversation once or twice in major networks. Like, what is considered a dynasty? Is it 3 in a row? Is it 2 in a row? Is it 3 out of 4? Like, what is considered a dynasty to you folks out there? 59 people watching. Give me your opinion on that. Again, I would say that the question out here is, what would you folks consider a dynasty? How many championships and how many years do you have to win to be considered a dynasty franchise? Let's ask that. It's pretty sweet. Lady Aces killed it, guys. I'm sure they'll be rearing up and ready to go this upcoming season. We're going to transition over the Golden Knights. Golden Knights, before we head to commercial break here. Golden Knights are off to a fast start, 3-1 to start the season. Their first game, they played the Avalanche. They won 8-4. Okay, so they're already out and about. They're scoring like crazy, 4-3 in their second game, 3-1. As of right now, it's showing that when you add all that up and you divide it, I mean, you're looking at a team that's scoring about 5 goals a game, putting them at 4th in the NHL. By the way, it's early in the season. Pardon me, it's early in the season, so it's kind of crazy to think that, but 5 goals a game, 33.3% on power play. That's 4th in the league. That is one of the Golden Knights' biggest issues last year, was the power play. They could not get themselves back in the top 10. I think they were a top 3 team when they won the championship, if I remember correctly. The penalty kill, 66.7%. They're tied for 24th. That is not good. That's almost, I mean, you're allowing less than, obviously, 40% as far as goals being scored on the power play. But when you're tied 24th, that means you have 23 other teams that are doing a better job than you in penalty kill. Also means that when you do go to the penalty or the power play, or you're on the power play, you're in the defense, you're kind of sitting ducks. Like, you might as well make these 50-50 odds in hockey. And you don't want that. You don't want that at all. So obviously the penalty kill's got to improve. Goals against, 2.67, tied for 8th. A lot of that has to do with that first game 8-4 when you allow 4 goals. The second game 3 goals. And then their last game they lost to the Capitals 4-2. So they're allowing some goals, but it seems as though they're putting up some goals as well. So that's the nice trade-off you had there. Jack Eichel's killing it. Absolutely killing it. Starting out with the season, he's got 7 points to start the season in 4 games. That's 100 point. If he keeps on pace, it's well over 100-point year. That'd be great for Jack Eichel. Ivan Barbashev, he's currently got 3 goals in the season on 7 shots. Ivan's going to be somebody that's up and coming. We didn't see him much the last couple of years because he was kind of overshadowed by Marchessault. He was kind of overshadowed by Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, the big names there. We should see a resurgence of young players that are coming up. Because remember, the Golden Knights got a good farm. They have a really good farm. They just did a really good job of keeping those top-heavy guys ready to go. Shea Theodore is still back for the defense. Pietrangelo. Thomas, this is one that's interesting. Tomas Hertl. He's 30 years old. Former Shark, right? That's been most of his career, honestly, was with the Sharks. He was a big one for the Sharks over the years, a center. Excellent player. They must have got him in the bargain bin. Again, he's 30 years old. He must be to hockey, he must be on the wrong side of 30 for them. I know the Sharks are rebuilding, so they probably didn't want to pay him his salary, which is fine. Guess what? The Golden Knights love good players. So they're going to do everything they can. Nicholas Waugh, he's back. So a lot of good things to look at for this team. One of the other things that we can talk about, in my opinion, is the goaltending. Adin Hill is back. He's played 2 games. He's got 2 wins. He's not really having an issue there, which is great. The only game that we've lost was with Samsonov in goal, and he's your younger goalie. I don't know if he's going to get a ton of reps, especially with Adin Hill. If Adin Hill's healthy, he's going to be your guy. We all know what he did to earn the job 2 years ago when they won the Stanley Cup. Man, I think he only allowed like 2 or 3 goals the entire Stanley Cup playoff. Like, that's incredible. Adin Hill, when he's healthy, is just a difference maker. Right now, the Golden Knights are tied for first in the Pacific Division, and they're tied with Calgary, for that matter. They both got 6 points. The Vegas Golden Knights have played 1 more game than Calgary. Calgary's off to an hot start as well. I don't know if we're going to really have to worry about I think the standings will be fine this year. I don't know you'll really have to worry about a heated – as long as the Golden Knights stay healthy, they're just a team that's going to do a very good job, right? Calgary's 3-0, Vegas 3-1, LA 1-0 with 2 overtime losses. Anaheim's 1-1. When was the last time we saw Anaheim at 500? Like, let's be honest. As a Ducks fan, I can tell you, it's been a long time. Like the Ryan Getzlaf in his prime days, long time. Like, we're talking about almost 6 years now since we've seen the Ducks on a winning season. That's crazy. A lot to be excited about. You still have the new team, Seattle. I'll be interested to see how they take a step forward. That very first year, their inaugural year, they went to the playoffs. That was a ton of fun to watch. Let's see if they can get a little bit better. Love their color scheme. I think Vegas has got their hands full this season, but there's definitely going to be a contender. They will definitely be a contender. We're going to go to a quick break. We're going to listen to our friends at Palm Tree Sports. Got to love that. And the Neutral Zone, who went on today as well. We're going to go to their drops real quick, give some love to our teammates when we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports.
Hey, sports fans. Are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a down south education on Florida sports and athletics, it's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Karnick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the '08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies,
And your one-timers,
you wicked wristas.
and be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from the break here. Want to do a big thank you to Neutral Zone, Zach Puplis and Adam Karnick. They're going about the same time. Right now, we're kind of competing for views. Let's keep this going because we're winning. Who knew that Vegas would just be better than hockey? Let's be honest. It could be because of the handsome devil in the gray sweatshirt. Who knows? With the comb over. I just showered before this. It is what it is. You guys know how it is. Look at that ugly Raiders stuff in my background, too. That's why you guys tuned in. 71 to tune in for the hate. It's coming, guys. I got to be real with you. Larry said it's the handsome guy. Oh, you smooth talker. You charismatic. Oh, I hear you. I see what you did there. But shout out to the Neutral Zone, guys. I used to be the host there. That hockey show does a great job. It used to be with Nico Green years ago, guys, when I first started here on IE Sports Radio. Well, that's about 10 years ago, by the way, or about 9. I would say 8 or 9 years ago that was. And Larry still put up with me. It's kind of nice of him. But yeah, big shout out to Adam. Him and Zach have the best drop in IE Sports Radio. I have a hard time saying otherwise. It's hilarious. Like, dude, it's absolutely hilarious when they get into it. And we're gonna do a big shout out to Fast Break. We will be listening to them here soon. That'll be Davison Crooks and Dentarius Locke. They do a great job over there talking. They're our resident basketball experts. And then, as always, we got the Buffalo Huddle. Patty runs that joint. Wouldn't you say so, Larry? Give me a thumbs up. Patty kills it. She's an enthusiastic Buffalo fan. I want to know if Patty has jumped through a table. I want to know. That's the Buffalo Bills thing, right? Power bombing people through tables. I want to know if Patty's been through a table. Because she seems like she's hardcore like that. Patty's epic. You know what's not epic, guys? The Las Vegas Raiders. But before we get into that, we got to touch base on Bishop Gorman. They're killing it. They're killing it this year. I want to say they're the number 3 ranked team, number 5 in the country, number 5 in the nation, 6-1. The only team they've lost to is the top team in the nation. I mean, come on now. Bishop Gorman is currently at number 5 in the nation, 6-1. Just dominated their last opponent. Larry had to inform me that the high school they played was called Basic High School. That's a meme and a half, if you would. I mean, someone could make a meme after that. Absolutely. Last Friday, Bishop Gorman won 49-14 against Arborview in Las Vegas. So they're still the best team in Las Vegas by far. This Friday, Basic will be at Bishop Gorman. So they're out of Henderson, Nevada. Basic High School is. Still puts Las Vegas in that, puts Bishop Gorman in that Las Vegas favorite. It's going to be hard to beat them. I think we're at the point now where, like, now that we're regional, so you got those big games out of the way, which were huge to begin the season. I mean, you played a ranked team from Hawaii, dude. When was the last time a ranked team was from Hawaii? It's kind of incredible when you think about it. Like they're across the pond, man, and they're still pulling rankings like that. That's really impressive. That's actually interesting that we say that too. I was reading an article the other day on ESPN about how Hawaii, their football programs are really growing. Like they're starting to produce more and more talent because there's a huge focal point on Hawaiian football. Like think about it though. Like the Tuas of the world, the Marcus Mariotas, they kind of started it. Marcus Tuiasosopo back in the day, the early 2000s. I'm just saying, man, Hawaiian football is really starting to jump off the map, and they'll never produce things like Texas, California, any of those big guys. But imagine if some of these Hawaiians like do a really good job of putting guys in the pros in major programs. It's going to look great for the islands. Look great for the islands. But yeah, Bishop Gorman is currently number 5 in the nation, 6-1. They got a game this week against Basic out of Henderson, Nevada. That'll be at home against Bishop Gorman. Bishop Gorman's killing it, guys. They're a top team in the nation. It's really hard to come by that. We're really happy we have the ability to cover them here on the Sin City Sports Show on IA Sports Radio. And if you guys have any love for Bishop Gorman, you guys get in the chat. Let me know your thoughts on the Bishop Gorman team. We know that they lost to the number 1 team. They'll still be highly ranked by the end of the season, regardless, because I don't know if anybody in Nevada is going to beat them. I think they're too much of a powerhouse. But yeah, we all also know that a lot of those guys are feeding into UNLV now. UNLV being a team that's absolutely killing it. UNLV they're on track, guys. They might have another 9-win season, maybe 10 wins at this point. And the big thing with UNLV is UNLV has done a great job under Barry Odom in recruiting the city of Las Vegas, recruiting Nevada itself. They're staying within the state. They are legitimately pulling the Miami routine, right? If you guys ever get the chance to watch the Miami docuseries on 30 for 30, they talked about how they just cut the state in half and said, everything south of this line, we're going to recruit, because Florida, you could throw a rock and hit a 5-star athlete. That is just the way it is in Florida. Miami knew that. So they said, we're going to keep it at home. We're going to go after kids that want to play for Miami, that want to be here. I think UNLV is doing the same thing. We're at that point. I think UNLV is focused on getting kids in Nevada to commit to UNLV, because if you win your pipeline, you're putting yourself in position to win it all. Overall, UNLV right now, technically second in the conference. They're 2-0 against their opponents. Points for 109, points against 48. The only team that I'm really concerned with them playing is the Boise State Broncos. Ashton Genty is just going off right now. Like, this guy might be the next Saquon Barkley the way it's turning out. I'm not saying he's going to be that talented, but he's got the cachet. Seriously, we're at that point. He's got the cachet for sure. So that should be interesting to watch there. UNLV, Oregon State's up next. That could be a tough game. But when you look at it, the only team they've lost to is Syracuse. And realistically, it's because Syracuse just had a better quarterback. McCord's killing it. McCord is absolutely slinging it right now for Syracuse. That was a huge. And here's my favorite part about that. Those Syracuse coaches are absolutely chirping Ohio State. And now you got lower level colleges going, hey, if you come to this college, we got NIL, all you can eat at specific restaurants. They're all piping in trying to steal athletes from Ohio State. It's hilarious. But Kyle McCord is very, very good. Last I checked, I want to say Kyle McCord. No, he's still healthy. They're good to go there. That's perfect. They're killing it, guys. So that's the only team. They're 5-1. They're 5th in the ACC, which is kind of crazy. The ACC must be absolutely deep this year. If you're 5-1 and you're 5th, Clemson's looking great in the ACC. But yeah, UNLV is in position to, one, they're ranked 25, and 2, they're in position to. Let's look at their schedule. Oregon State. It's at Oregon State. It's Corvallis. It's not going to be an easy game because they're a Power 5 team. But if you can beat Kansas, if you can beat Houston, I think you can compete against Oregon State. Oregon State's not the same Oregon State they were last year either, because their head coach is gone. He went to another program. You lost some players. It's not that same 10-11 win team that we saw last year at Oregon State. The following week, you have the number 15 Boise State Broncos. I don't know if I see that going well. Boise State's just stacked this year. They're a team that I could totally see in the playoff. It sounds crazy, but I'm kind of calling it right now. I think if Boise State wins out, they could be the 12th spot in the playoff. Could you imagine that? Boise State in their first year, a Mountain West team in the 12-team playoff. That'd be a lot of fun to watch. And a lot of tension would be on Ashton Genty in that Boise State offensive line, which has been absolutely dominating thus far this year. Hawaii is another name on the remaining schedule. So realistically, like looking at this schedule, at worst, UNLV loses 2 more games. So you're looking at a 9-3 season. And they're probably playing in the Mountain West Championship again against the Boise State Broncos. And then they're probably looking at another opportunity to play a decent team. I want to say they played Kansas in their bowl game last year. Barely lost. Kansas didn't even really beat them that bad. UNLV's got some studs. I also love that UNLV is doing it without that diva that wanted more money. You guys know what I'm talking about. I'm not even going to say his name on here. Ridiculous that a player would make an agreement, and because he was playing above his actual threshold, he was asking for more money. That's what it ended up being. The reports. At first, his agent was trying to say that UNLV was not honoring the contract. UNLV and their agents came out and said, oh no, the NIL was honored. This guy's just asking for more money. And it's been mum's the word since then. The kid entered the transfer portal. He hasn't come back, and UNLV isn't looking back either. Their passing game became more dynamic, threw for 3 touchdowns last game. That's incredible. They beat Utah State. Utah State's not a very good team, but still 50 points against another Mountain West team like Utah State who can compete against others. I love it. Ricky White's still killing it. His speed is doing a great job. He might be an NFL receiver. I could totally see him being a late round guy. Based on what I've seen from UNLV, and I've watched a couple games of theirs this year, that could be interesting to watch with Ricky White. He's just very fast. Very fast. UNLV's killing it, guys. Oregon State this week, 9 p.m., the CW network. That should be interesting to watch. Following week, followed up with Boise State. So 2 really big games that could really decide the fate of where they kind of place themselves towards the end of the season, or the Mountain West title game coming up here for the UNLV Fighting Rebels. Transitioning over to the Las Vegas Raiders. Oh my gosh. Here's the deal, guys. The Raiders are the Raiders. They're dysfunctional. It's not even close. They're one of the worst franchises in football right now. It's just poorly run. The business side of things is excellent. Don't get me wrong. They're making money hand over fist. They're charging $500 per ticket for a team that can't seem to win more than 9 games in a season, ever. Like the last time it happened was Derek Carr when they went like 10-7, I think. And we shipped him off to New Orleans, by the way. Not even shipped him off. We had to cut him because he had all the leverage. And the team couldn't figure it out because we let Josh McDaniels, or Josh McDumbass, come in and completely screw up the makeup and culture of our team. The whole Gruden thing was a sham. I get it. He said what he said. It was very inappropriate. You'll never hear me say otherwise. Those emails that came out from over a decade ago. But the Raiders were trending in a great direction when John Gruden was head coach. Like they were legit 3-1 before that news broke. And then they went on a bit of a tailspin after all that drama happened. A couple weeks later, Henry Ruggs happened. Like, you can't make this stuff up, man. And it feels like it's nonstop for the Raiders. You know, Josh McDaniels was drama. All that whole come to Jesus meeting that they talk about, they bragged about. Getting rid of him. Antonio Pierce stepping up, having a great end of the season, going 5-4 or 5-5, I think he was, as an interim head coach. Now he's a full-time head coach, and we're almost in a worse place than what we were before he took over. Now, I don't put that on him. So I'm going to say this up front. I don't like this whole fire Antonio Pierce talk. I hate it. He's 6 games in. I don't know what you expect from the guy. He doesn't have a franchise quarterback, man. The Raiders elected to draft Brock Bowers rather than trade up and get their guy. Like, I think Michael Penix could absolutely be killing it for us right now. But I also believe that Brock Bowers was a great pick. Like, the dude's a stud. He's killing it right now. But the reality is, folks, and we've talked about this in the past in the show, if you don't have a franchise guy, your team is probably not a contender. And that's what's happening with the Raiders. I like Aiden O'Connell. I think Aiden O'Connell is a much better option than Gardner Minshew. I'd be extremely pissed off if Gardner Minshew starts another game because he's a journeyman backup. He's never been better than a backup. I would rather see if Aiden O'Connell can get better, can improve the rest of the season with what we have left on this team than not. Really. You still have Jacoby Myers. You can game plan Trey Tucker more. You can game plan Brock Bowers more. Get Michael Mayer the ball more, right? Madison, White, start double teaming that. I'd like to see the running backs get the ball more in the screen game. I don't tell you guys, man, we have options. It's just, will Luke Getsy and them figure it out? That's the other thing. Fans are already calling for Luke Getsy's head. It's crazy. 6 games in. You don't have a franchise quarterback, man. It's really hard to judge an offensive coordinator. It's really hard to judge the makeup of a team. It's really hard to judge a head coach when you don't have a franchise quarterback. Like, look what's happening with Mike Tomlin. I can judge Mike Tomlin because I know that every single year he's going to win 10 plus games, whether he has Big Ben or somebody else. He's a really, really good coach. Mike Tomlin's a stud. It doesn't matter who he has back there. He wins 10 games. At least. We don't have that guy right now. Antonio Pierce is inexperienced. You cannot expect him to just win over a team and then win an entire brutal schedule. We've talked about this, guys, because the Raiders' schedule is brutal. I mean, let's do a quick review, right? Raiders' schedule. You started with the Chargers. The Chargers are doing a pretty damn good job. If you ask me, in their first year under Jim Harbaugh, they're doing a pretty damn good job. They're 3-2. The surprise is the Broncos. The Broncos are piecing together wins. It's not pretty, but they're still doing it, and they're looking good for going out and getting Bo Nix. Now, I can tell you with confidence that if the Raiders would have drafted Bo Nix, I would have quit being a Raider fan. 100%. It's not that he's bad. Just drafting him at 13 would have been stupid. Leave that type of crap for the Broncos. Not for us. But this schedule is the Chargers, 3-2. The Ravens, 3-2. The Panthers, what are they now? They've won a couple games since we played them, right? Oh, they're 1-5. So we're their only win, dude. The Panthers, maybe the worst team in the league, the Raiders lost to. So kind of by default making us the worst team in the league. It's sad. Here's the remaining schedule. The Los Angeles Rams. The Kansas City Chiefs. The Bengals. The Dolphins are probably going to be without Tua still, because if I were Tua, I would hang it up. I'd never play again, to be honest, at this point. But regardless, the Dolphins are a winnable game. The Broncos are a winnable game. But then you have the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Falcons, the Jaguars are shit. They might be worse than the Raiders. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's possible, but the Saints, Derek Carr will be back and healthy. They'll be battling for a playoff position. We'll be way out of that playoff race by then, probably without Max Crosby. I don't know, man. The rest of the schedule, I see maybe 1, 2, 3 more wins. 3. So you're looking at a 5-win team. You're looking at easily a top 5 draft pick next year. And I do think Antonio Pierce survives this. It just depends on what the new owner, Tom Brady, thinks. Here's another headline for you. Tom Brady is now a minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, as well as the Las Vegas Lady Aces, because he's part of the ownership group that Mark Davis is in. And Mark Davis has openly come out and say that Tom Brady will have a hand in business stuff, or at least football stuff, with the Raiders moving forward. I can't tell you if I'm excited about that or not. I really can't. I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time. Does that mean he can evaluate quarterback talent? Because I think that guy will have a heavy say in what happens with the quarterback room by next season if he's involved. That should be interesting. Minority owner. So not only is he a huge analyst for Fox, right? Dude's going to make like, I think they wanted to, I thought they said like 30 million a year as an analyst, which is the highest they've ever seen. It's just incredible. Now he's going to start earning potential in his portfolio with the Raiders. Mark Davis has nobody to leave that team to, guys. Nobody. He doesn't have a child. He doesn't have a kid. It's not like Al Davis dying and giving it and Mark inherits it. Mark Davis does not have somebody to inherit this team. And in his mind, he's like, I'm going to get the greatest football player and quarterback and competitor ever. Hopefully, Tom Brady turns into kind of a John Elway. That legend that can attract talent that's been there before, players like to talk to. Hopefully, Tom Brady can be that guy. Hopefully, that brings cachet to a Raiders locker room or culture that needs to be brought, because it just doesn't look good right now. You don't have a franchise quarterback. Again, we've hit that nail on the head. One of your top players, the second best player on the team, and I'm saying the second best player because there's just no way anybody on this team is better than Max Crosby in what he does for the Raiders. But Davante Adams got what he wanted. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't like to speculate. This is just my opinion. I think Davante was full of shit. I don't think he really had an injury. I think he looked at the makeup of this team. I think he looked at the schedule. I think he thought, we're just not a contender. I'd rather save my body and get sent to a place I'm more comfortable at than continue to play for this team, for this dysfunctional franchise. The guy was traded here from the Green Bay Packers for a first and second round pick. And he okayed that trade because he had a no trade clause with Green Bay. He okayed that trade to play with his best friend. He can play that. He could downplay that all he wants in the offseason like he did. But I think when Derek Carr was benched, that dude was basically already packing it in. That's just my opinion. I firmly believe that as soon as Derek Carr was no longer on this roster and they couldn't go out and get an Aaron Rodgers to be the Raiders' next quarterback like the Jets did, I think Adams was just ready to ship off. That's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. I read the tea leaves, guys. This is what I do for a living. I'm in sales. I read people. I read their actions. I look at details. And I let that stuff kind of educate my opinions. That's where I'm at with it, Davante Adams. It's a two-part. One, he's an effing quitter on this team. I would feel like absolute dog shit if I was a Raider right now. By the same token, I can't blame him because this franchise has been absolutely run like shit for over a decade now. Ever since Mark Davis took over. There's really very few positives you can bring up in the Mark Davis era. It's sickening that guy can charge $500 a ticket and produce 2 winning seasons. And I'm saying him because it starts with him, right? And he'll take that. He took that blame. He's hired these coaches that we've had to fire in almost no time at all. He inherited a franchise quarterback that teams could not build around. I shouldn't say inherited. They drafted a guy, but he's a franchise guy. They just couldn't build around him, man. Say what you want about the dude. Yeah, maybe he's top 12. Maybe he's top 15 right now. But when he was the Raiders quarterback, especially when he was in his prime, he was the top guy. And we didn't do enough. Our defenses were still awful. And the guy was considered the future of the league at one point. Now he plays for the team. And we got no assets out of that, guys. We're talking about an early 30s quarterback who can still sling it, who before he got hurt and started getting hit left and right, was leading the league in touchdown passes and passer rating this season, right? The Raiders couldn't get assets for this guy. Devontae was traded to the New York Jets for a bag of used condoms. Bag of peanuts and a fuck you slip, basically. I'm just being real with you. The little card that said that. A third, conditionally moved to a second if he's an all-pro. If I'm the Jets and you really have that defense that you think can win you a championship, and they do, I believe they have a rock-solid defense, man. The defense has not been the problem. Their offensive line is, as always, been the issue in New York for the Jets. But now they have 2 pass catchers. They have Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams on their team now. That is not cool, dude. That's crazy to me that they can land that. The Jets may be 2-4 right now. I fully believe that they'll be a 11-6, 10-7 team squeaking into the playoffs, and they're going to make some noise because they can run the ball with Breece Hall, and they play defense great. So there's a good chance that Devontae Adams is an all-pro by the end of the season. There's a good chance that they do play in the AFC title game. And those are the 2 conditions that the Raiders have that would upgrade that to a second-round pick from a third. We traded one of the best receivers in the NFL, a top 5 guy in the NFL, for a third-round pick. When you look at CBS Sports, they gave the Raiders an F. They gave the Jets an A. It's kind of hard to disagree with that. I mean, Devontae got what he wanted. Props to him, man. And he was professional about it. Let's be honest. He was professional about it. It just looks like he quit on the team. It looks like he wanted out before the season even started. The whispers have been happening then. And it's bad when a player has to do the dreaded vote of confidence. You know what I mean? He says, "No, I'm a Raider for life. No, I don't want to go anywhere." It's like an owner coming out and say, "No, we love this head coach." And then they fire him 5 weeks later. It's the dreaded vote of confidence, man. You don't want that. That's what the Raiders got with Devontae Adams. So a third-round pick, possibility of being upgraded to a second if Devontae Adams is voted all-pro, deemed all-pro, or he plays a snap in the AFC title game. Both which could happen. That's kind of crazy to me. We're going to go to a quick break here, guys. When we get back, we're going to finish the rest of the Raiders news that we have here today. Some theories I have going on, what I think is going to happen here in the future when we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show presented by Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Locke.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo Sports with a Twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
Ladies and sinners, welcome back from the break. Special shout out to our teammates there. Got to give a shout out to Davison Crooks and Don Terry's Lock on a fast break. They're the Sunday show, 7 p.m. Central, as well as Patty Bax, the Buffalo Huddle. Always killing it for the Buffalo Bills, for those Buffalo teams. Absolutely awesome. Her show is just before ours, or a couple hours before ours, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern. You guys can check her out there at Huddles10251 on X. Patty does a great job of covering those sports there in Buffalo. So shout out to our teammates. Shout out to Ralph Calise, by the way. He's always the legendary teammate. His Steelers beat the Raiders this last week. So gotta give him a humble little shout out because Ralph is one of the best teammates out there. He does a great job of supporting IE Sports Radio. If you guys want to support IE Sports Radio, go to iesportsradio.com. Check out our merch shop. Check out our shows. Follow, like, helps the algorithms, helps out Larry B. Go to YouTube. Check out our shows. You guys can follow us on X, IG, Facebook, and TikTok at iesportsradio.com. For 10 years, covering sports. And for most of us, it's just having a good time, taking an hour to talk about sports on a weekly basis. I lucked out. I got a Vegas show. I get to talk about my favorite team. Unfortunately, I get to talk about my favorite team as well. If you guys want to check us out on our Twitter, at Kayle_Henderson is my personal. You guys can go to at SinCity_IESR. Talk to us about Raiders sports or Las Vegas sports, because in my opinion, Las Vegas is one of the fastest growing sports markets in America, and it's hard to defeat that. Also, shout out to the people watching this show tonight. We got 178 viewers, more than double that of the neutral zone. I have to do that, guys, because we're competing, right? We're competing. What? Come on. This is like Bama playing William Mary School of the Blind right now. Get competition. Come on, guys. No, big shout out to Neutral Zone, though. There'll be good sports about it. Adam's a badass. Nick Puplis will do a great job. So thank you so much for supporting us tonight, guys. We're going to close out the show. Again, I touching base on the Raiders. You know, we know Devontae Adams is traded. We now know, and it was for peanuts. We also know that Tom Brady's now a minority owner. We unfortunately know that Mark Davis is still the owner of the Raiders and charging $500 a ticket for a dog shit franchise. Antonio Pierce is getting these fire Antonio Pierce thing. I don't get it. 6 games in, he doesn't really have what people think he has. Is the defense better? Yes. I would totally agree with that. But guess what? Now Christian Wilkins is hurt. If I were the Raiders, I would sit him until you know he's 100% healthy. Otherwise, I wouldn't play him at all the rest of the season because you still have him for 4 more years. Don't waste a year. Do not get him seriously injured when you could bring him back. Your defense is better. Your offense, however, we can't run the ball to save our life. Our offensive line has a really hard time establishing the run right now. Our running backs are getting hit less than a half yard downfield. That means there is no push. It's not good. It's pathetic. I was excited to see Jackson Powers Johnson in the game last week. That guy is a big man, and he fires off the ball. So I'm hoping he gets the experience he needs next to or across from Dylan Parham, because they have a really bright future there if they can keep those guys healthy. Larry B chimes in, says, yeah, like we're winning games anyway. Sir Wilkins, sure. Here's the thing, man, and this is what I'm worried about, Larry. I'm worried that we're going to win like 5 more games all of a sudden and knock us out of contention to get a franchise quarterback this offseason. Because it would be such a Raiders thing to do. Such a Raiders thing to do. I don't see that, though. Looking at the schedule, guys, I'm being honest with you. I don't see the Raiders beating the Rams. Not in LA. I don't see the Raiders beating the Chiefs right now. Chiefs defense is top 5 defense in the league, and they have Pat Mahomes. So there's that. The Bengals are going to start surging here because the Bengals do that mid to late season. Joe Burrow just goes on a tear, MVP tear every time he's healthy. The Dolphins are a winnable game. The Broncos are a winnable game. I don't think they're a very good team. And you were without Adams the last time you played them anyway, so the fact that you kind of kept it close until you couldn't is a good sign. They will lose to the Chiefs. They will lose to the Buccaneers. I just don't see them competing with those teams. The Falcons. I think that the Jaguars are a winnable game, but it would be such a Raiders thing to do to lose at home to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Raiders play the Saints in New Orleans. Followed up with the Chargers January 5th. I think that New Orleans game is going to be an absolute. I don't like it, man. I just don't like it. It'll be competitive up front, but it wouldn't surprise me if Derek Carr throws 5 touchdowns on us just to prove a point. Like, it's just one of those revenge games. It's almost like when Michael Vick, when he was with the Eagles, played the Atlanta Falcons, and he threw for 5 touchdowns and 500 yards when he was finally brought in for what was it? Kevin Cobb, who got hurt when Andy Reid was still the Philadelphia Eagles head coach. It could totally be like that. It's a revenge game. If I were Derek Carr, I'd absolutely go off. I'd go for 4 or 5 touchdowns. I'd rub it in because the Raiders just kind of let him go. They didn't build around him the entire time. For the most part, the entire time he was a Raider. It's hard to deny that, guys. Never had a competent defense. The year that Khalil Mack was going off, the Raiders were still in the 20s. We just happen to be one of the top teams when it comes to forcing turnovers and turnover margin. A lot of that has to do with the offense was just doing a great job of taking care of the football that year in 2016. Here are some things I'm predicting right now as we speak. I'm guessing this is going to be a 5-win team. I'm guessing based on what we've seen, and without Devontae Adams, I'm guessing this is going to be a team that's probably playing for a top 5 pick. There's a good chance that the Raiders are in on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. I'd rather have one more than the other. And it's nothing against the Sanders dudes. I just don't want the drama. This franchise would not be a good spot for Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion. The guy's already a diva. You know, he's already whining to media about blatantly throwing picks and all that other jazz and getting hit. Like, he's going to get all of that and more as a Raider. I don't need to see it. I'm sure Raiders fans would love that. Not for me. I'd rather have Cam Ward. Really. I'd rather see Cam Ward as the Raiders quarterback, but we'll see what we're looking at. But I do believe the Raiders will be looking at a top 5 pick. And it looks as though if the season were to end now, the teams ahead of the Raiders, maybe one of them needs a franchise quarterback. The rest of them just spent a resource to get a franchise quarterback. So that's good news there. It means there won't be a ton of competition for those top guys unless someone trades up. The other prediction I'm making, and it's not going to be great as we close the show here, I firmly believe that Max Crosby will be traded before the deadline. I'm calling it. I hate to say that. I don't want to say that, but I'm being honest with you folks. Max Crosby's a stud. You are currently in a position where you cannot compete for probably 1 or 2 more years, 2 or 3 at this point. You might as well pull the Khalil Mack, try and get 2 first-rounders for Max Crosby. Detroit just lost Hutchinson. If you don't think that Detroit wouldn't spend those draft picks to make sure that Detroit was strong, and if we're being honest, Max Crosby is the perfect Dan Campbell guy. Like, they would fit like a glove, man. They would be crazy good. And players just love Dan Campbell. So Max Crosby would have a competent coach, with the exception of John Gruden for the first time in his career. It's the truth. And Crosby's price tag will be a first-round pick. I'll say this. If I were the Raiders, I would try and trade Max Crosby for a first, a second, and Hendon Hooker. Or a first, a third, and Hendon Hooker. See if that young quarterback from Tennessee, who is currently right behind Jared Goff and is somebody they believe could be the future of their franchise, see if he can come over to the Raiders and compete. Because then you have your franchise quarterback taken care of. Maybe use that top 5 pick on something else or trade back and get more assets. The Raiders need a lot of help, guys. We got to beef up the lines. We really need to find a top-tier pass catcher. There's going to be over $100 million in cap space next year with the Devontae trade happening. And if Crosby's gone, even more cap space next year. There's a lot of positives, but it sucks that we have to deal with all the negatives on a consistent basis that Raiders fans do. And that all points to Mark Davis. I've said it for years. Mark Davis is a problem. He really is. He's the decision maker here. Instead of going hard after Jim Harbaugh, he went after Antonio Pierce. Went after John Gruden. Instead of going after more notable names, he went after Josh McDaniels. I'm just telling you guys, he's a problem. He's an issue. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you guys want to check out our show, just go to X or go to Twitter at Kayle_Henderson. Check out my personal at SinCity_ISR, where we talk all things Vegas sports. You guys can check out Google Podcasts, Apple Pods, any major platform. We're available on YouTube as well at IESportsRadio.com or at IE Sports Radio. We will see you folks next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we talk all things Vegas sports. As always, folks, have a great evening. We'll talk to you next week.